How did a young, non-athletic kid from Oklahoma become the first homegrown kung fu star in America? Rising through the cracks of poverty and the rigors of growing up with an alcoholic father, how did he become one of the most iconic karate masters in history?
The more you train, the more proficient you are to be able to handle certain situations on the street.
Join us as we peel back the curtain on this larger-than-life personality. This is the story of Chuck Norris, as it has never been told. Genesis. For most people who grew up on a daily dose of action flicks and larger-than-life characters, Chuck Norris is more like a cult figure. With many martial arts championships under his belt, a blossoming career in Hollywood, and several accolades to his name, Norris remains one of the most celebrated figures to ever emerge from the scene. But before rising to the highest heights in the industry, Chuck Norris had to battle waves of personal troubles, family crises, and financial hardship. His journey from an ordinary boy to an action film star was marked by several rises and falls and ups and downs. Thankfully, he was able to overcome through hard work, faith in his abilities, and a remarkable level of resilience. The incredible Chuck Norris was born in Ryan, Oklahoma on March 10, 1940. His father, Ray D. Norris, was a World War II Army soldier, mechanic, bus driver, and a truck driver, and his mother was Wilma Norris. Later in his life, his mother would play a major role in keeping him grounded and helping him achieve his Hollywood dreams. According to his family heritage, Norris has both Irish and Cherokee roots. His full name, Carlos Ray Norris, was taken from his father's pastor, Carlos Berry, who held a significant position in his father's life. His parents also had two other boys, Wieland and Aaron. However, Wieland tragically passed in 1970 as a casualty of the Vietnam War. This tragedy dealt a big blow to Norris's mental health at the time, as he was quite close to his brother. Growing up, life was quite tough for young Chuck Norris. His father was an alcoholic who couldn't bear the burden of taking care of the family. His parents often argued, and many of his childhood memories were marred with bitter fights and financial struggles. But things were about to get even tougher. By the time Norris turned 16, Wilma and Ray had had enough of each other, and they settled for a divorce. Thankfully, his mom got the longer end of the stick and retained custody of the three children. Along with Chuck and his two brothers, Wilma Norris moved to Prairie Village in Kansas, and then to Terrence, California, in the pursuit of a new life. But beyond the battles at home, Norris also struggled with his personal demons. He described himself as a non-athletic child, who was also shy and quite mediocre when it came to academic performance. Doesn't quite sound like the Chuck Norris we all came to know and love, right? Well, this was years ago, and things were very different. His father's alcohol binges, which sometimes lasted for a whole month, brought the family serious embarrassment and further depleted their financial resources. As a result of these childhood traumas, Norris developed a debilitating, introverted personality as a coping strategy. As we travel back in time to Chuck Norris's childhood, we are introduced to a young boy starkly contrasting the personality of the man who captured our hearts and attention with his incredible fighting skills and acting prowess. Soon, this budding talent would break out of his shell and emerge as the true warrior that he is. But first, he had to take a detour. The military chapter and martial arts. In 1958, Chuck Norris signed up for the United States Air Force as an Air Force policeman. His first assignment was to Osan Air Base in South Korea. It was there that Norris first earned the nickname Chuck, which would later become an ingrained part of his identity for the rest of his life. It was also in North Korea that Norris fell in love with martial arts and began training in Tang Soo Do. This little interest culminated in him earning a black belt in the art and founding Chun Kuk Do, his personal version of the art form. After returning to the United States, Norris continued to serve as an air policeman at the March Air Force Base in California until he was eventually discharged in August 1962. Before his exit from the military, he had earned the rank of Airman First Class, as a testament of his dedication to the force. Onward, he moved to the next phase of his life, ready to take on the world like the warrior that he was. His next step was to become a police officer in Terrence, California. But while he was on the waiting list, Norris decided to open a martial arts studio instead. Like a fresh page off a newly written book, this charismatic figure opened a new chapter in his life, one that would set him on a path towards fame and glory. It was at this point that he began to participate in martial arts competitions. Confident that the skills he had developed in Korea would propel him to the top of the food chain here in America, Norris stepped onto the mat ready to decimate any foe who dared stand toe-to-toe against him. But there were dark days ahead, and even though he was quite good, his martial arts prowess hadn't matched up to the level he desired. His first 2 matches were a disgrace. He lost woefully, dropping decisions to Joe Louis and Alan Steen. But there was one thing about this guy. He couldn't be kept down. No matter how many times he was knocked to the ground, Norris would always get back up, stronger, faster, and better. While many other people would shy away after experiencing back-to-back defeats, Norris shook himself up and registered for the International Karate Championships. However, his losing days were not yet over. As the championship proceeded, Chuck Norris lost 3 matches to Tony Tulliners, setting him back several notches in his martial arts career. This was a man who would later command the respect of martial artists all over the world, but for now, he kept hitting the ground, over and over and over. However, by 1967, things had started looking up, and he began to win. His fighting skills had improved so well that he began to score victories against the likes of the legendary Vic Moore, a huge accomplishment for him at the time. Finally, his reputation was receiving positive appraisal, and his dreams of becoming a master of the art began to seem valid. On June 3, 1967, Chuck Norris proved how good he was after he claimed the total victory at the 1967 tournaments of karate. To scale this mountain, he had to trample upon 7 opponents. His final fight was with skipper Mullins. It was a fierce battle, and Mullins was quite the formidable foe. But Norris prevailed much to the amazement of his ever-growing fan base. On June 24 of the same year, the legendary Chuck Norris was declared the champion at the S. Henry Cho's All-American Garden, snatching the title from Julio LaSalle and defeating the formidable Joe Louis. As he ascended the heights of martial arts mastery, Norris also worked with Northrop Corporation on the side, while establishing a chain of karate schools to impart others with his impeccable skills. The most notable of these schools was located in his then hometown of Terrence, California, on Hawthorne Boulevard. There, Norris ingrained the basic intricacies of Chun Kuk Do and other forms of martial arts into his students. Some of your favorite celebrities were brought up under the tutelage of this great man, including the likes of Steve McQueen, Chad McQueen, Bob Barker, Donny Osmond, and Marie Osmond. It was like a budding place for talent, and Norris made everyone feel accepted. The final loss. Rising from the ashes of defeat, Norris became a phoenix, soaring above some of the best in the game. But when you're so high up, plummeting to the ground can be quite devastating. In early 1968, Norris once again enjoyed the sweet taste of defeat after he lost a bout with Louis Delgado in an upset decision. It was a dark day for the champion, whose reputation has now been tainted by what would be recognized as the 10th defeat of his career. However, as this dark cloud hung over his soul, there was a bright side to it all. This would also mark the last time anyone would beat their chest confidently to claim they had defeated Chuck Norris. Never again was he down for the count. On November 24, 1968, Norris turned the tides in his favor when he avenged his defeat to Delgado. Not only did he win the battle, he also won the professional middleweight karate champion title, which he continued to hold for the next 6 years. On April 1, 1968, he also successfully defended his All-American Karate Championship title in a round-robin tournament held at the Karate Tournament of Champions, or North America Sunday. At this point, he was on a winning streak, and it seemed nothing could stop him. Again that year, Norris won the All-American Karate Championship for the second time, further establishing his legacy as one of the best to ever do it. This was the last time he would ever compete, before he eventually retired as the undefeated champion. It was during this competition that he met the legendary Bruce Lee, who at the time had gained international popularity for his role in the TV series The Green Hornet. Drawn by their unique passions and talents, Norris and Lee became fast friends. They began training together, honing their individual skills while setting the foundation for a working relationship. But once again, a new chapter awaited our hero, one that propelled him to heights beyond his imagination. Now he was simply a world-class karate boss, but soon his fame would ring throughout the world, bringing him undying respect and admiration from both fans and foes. Into the unknown, Hollywood fame and glory. After conquering the world of martial arts, Chuck Norris set his sights on a new venture: acting. His first role was in the Dean Martin film The Wrecking Crew. Although the movie didn't exactly transport him into the spotlight, it set him on a path he never looked back from. But in 1972, a massive opportunity presented itself, bringing Norris side by side with one of the greatest martial artists of all times, Bruce Lee. In the iconic movie Way of the Dragon, Norris played the role of Bruce Lee's arch-nemesis, and his popularity skyrocketed even more. The movie was so successful, it grossed over 5.3 million Hong Kong dollars at the Hong Kong box office. This surpassed the record which had initially been set by Lee's previous productions, The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, making it the highest-grossing film of 1972 in Hong Kong. But it didn't stop there. This artistic masterpiece crossed borders into the international market, and it grossed about $130 million worldwide. Like a rocket headed for the stars, Norris found himself launched at blinding speeds into the Hollywood spotlight. Now he wasn't just a karate master, he was a star. The unforgettable scene where Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris had their first and only on-screen fight in the Colosseum of Rome became the platform that further propelled the kung fu and karate culture into Western media. Today, the movie is one of the most influential of its time, and has been credited for introducing the international community to the enigma of Chinese cinema. For Norris, this was a huge turning point in his life, and riding on this success, he obtained another role in 1973. This time, it was Jonathan Kaplan that came calling, offering him a role in his hit movie, The Student Teachers. But at the time, his action was not so polished, save the remarkable fighting skills he possessed. So in 1997, actor Steve McQueen, who was his student and friend at the time, advised him to take up acting classes at MGM. And like gold in a crucible, his acting prowess began to surface, earning